For introduction, in the study, we're going to investigate connection between breakfast habits, focus rates, academic achievement, and amount of sleep among students at IUM, International Islamic University, Malaysia. So our research aligns with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, SDG, which is the SDG 3, good health and well-being, and SDG 4, quality education, which emphasize the importance of breakfast for student health and learning. And then, to get the data, we distributed a survey questionnaire across various IUM faculties. The survey collects information on academic performance, breakfast habits like the frequency and type, and the focus levels during class, reasons for skipping breakfast, and lastly, the sleep patterns. So our research aimed to understand the prevalence of breakfast skipping among students. And the second one is to identify potential relationships between focus rates with breakfast habits and amount of sleep. And lastly is to explore factors influencing students' breakfast choices.
So for the problem statement, first is a student at IIM who regularly consume breakfast are more likely to demonstrate higher focus rate during class session and achieve better academic performance compared to those who skip breakfast. Second is skipping breakfast among IIM students is primarily influenced by factors such as time constraint and financial constraint. And the third one is IIM students who maintain a healthy amount of sleep are likely to have better focus rate and academic performance in the classroom.
There are a few research questions that we have concluded. The first one is, how does breakfast consumption affect students' focus rate and academic performance in the classroom? Secondly, what other causes such as time constraint and financial constraint influence the students skipping breakfast? And lastly, how does the amount of sleep affect students' focus rate and academic performance in class?
So for research hypothesis, first, students who regularly consume breakfast demonstrate higher focus rate during class compared to those who skip breakfast. Second is time constraint and financial constraint are the cause of students who skip breakfast. Third one is healthy amount of sleep will likely cause the student to have a better focus rate and academic performance in the classroom.
Some of the main objectives that can be inferred, referring to the research questions and hypotheses that have been stated. The first one is to identify whether student focus rate depends on having breakfast. Second one, to investigate the factors contributing to skipping breakfast. And lastly, to understand the impact of having breakfast and a healthy amount of sleep on cognitive function, attention span, and academic performance. Based on our research, the objective is to collect data from students of IUM on matters that are related to our problem statement. We have distributed and received a total of 100 responses that highlight the correlation of breakfast consumption to students' focus rate and academic performance. A variable that is manipulated and not influenced by any other variable in the study is called an independent variable. Therefore, the independent variable in this study will be the breakfast consumption and amount of sleep. A variable that changed as a result of independent variable manipulation, or the outcome that we are measuring, is called dependent variable. In this case, the dependent variable is the focus rate of students in class. In statistics, we can estimate the extent to which independent variable change can explain or predict changes in the dependent variable. To ensure the validity of our research, confounding variables that correlate with our independent and dependent variables are taken into account. In this study, our confounding variables are CGPA, choice of breakfast, time constraint, and financial constraint. The statistical methods that we use to complete our study are mean, median, mode, variance and standard deviation, Chebyshev's theorem, and hypothesis testing. Mean is to provide the overall average focus rate of students who have breakfast compared to who do not. Median is to determine the median value of focus rates of students. Mode is to determine the most frequently occurring focus rate that could indicate the typical level of focus among students in each group. Variance and standard deviation is to identify the spread or dispersion of focus rates between the group. Chebyshev's theorem is to provide bounds on the proportion of data that falls within a certain number of standard deviations from the mean. Lastly, hypothesis testing is to determine if there is enough evidence in a sample data to draw conclusions about a population. In this study, we are to test that regular breakfast consumption improve focus rates and time and financial constraints contribute to breakfast skipping behavior.
Now I will explain to you about the analysis of the CGPA data. So we will examine the frequency distribution of the CGPA scores and analyze the data using Chebyshev's theorem. So let's start by looking at the distribution of the CGPA score among the students. So we put it into the distribution table. So we got the total number of the student is n, which is equal to 100%. And then we calculate the mean of the CGPA. So the formula to calculate the mean is the sum of the frequency times midpoint divided by the n. We get that the mean is 3.48. So the mean of the CGPA is 3.48. Then after that we want to calculate the mode. The mode is equal to this formula. So after we plug into this formula, we get that the mode is 3.65. And then after that we want to calculate the median of the CGPA among the student. By using this formula, we get that the median of the CGPA among the student is 3.57. After that, we want to calculate the variance and the standard deviation. So the variance is using this formula. After that, we plug into the number, and then we get that the variance is 0.15, and the standard deviation is the set of the variance, which we got 0.39. After that, we also found that at least 75% of the CGPA scores falls between 2.70 and 4.26. So now we will present the analysis of the gender distribution among the respondents. So we will examine the frequency and the percentage of the gender and perform a statistical test to determine if the sequence of the gender occur randomly. First, let's take a look at the gender distribution of our respondent. So we got that the male respondent is equal to 37 respondent, which is equal to 37% of the total. And female we got 63, which is constitute 63% of the total. In total, we have 100 respondent. And then To determine if the order of the respondent gender occur randomly, we will conduct a hypothesis test. So, our null hypothesis is the gender of the respondent does not occur in random order. And then our alternative hypothesis is the gender of the respondent occur in a random order. So, we have N1 equal to 63, which is female, and then N2 is 37, which is equal to male. So, the significant level, alpha, is always 0.05. And then, since both of the N1 and the N2 are greater than 20, so we will use the standard normal distribution table to find the critical value, which is equal to the table E. So, 0.05 we divide by 2, and then we got 0.025. Then, 1 minus 0.025 is equal to 0.975. Then, from the standard normal distribution table E, we find that the critical value Z is equal to plus minus 1.96. After that, we run the test of the randomness. So, we have the total of the run that we got is 39. So, when we want to calculate the randomness, we need to first calculate the expected number of runs, which is equal to G. So, this is the formula that we use. When we use this formula, then we plug in the values of N1 and N2, which is equal to female and male total number, and then we plug, and then we got 47.62 is equal to the expected number of run. And then next we calculate the standard deviation. So the standard deviation formula is this, and then we plug into the values into the formula, and then we got the standard deviation is 4.64. After that, to calculate the Z, we need to put into this formula, which is Z equal to G minus the expected number of run divided by the standard deviation of the run. So when we plug in the number 39 minus 47.62 divided by 4.636, and then we get Z is equal to negative 1.856. And then that is the TV. So we get that the TV is more than the CV because the CV that we got is negative 1.96. So we cannot reject the null hypothesis because there is not enough evidence to reject the claim that the gender of the respondent does not happen in random order.
So for analysis 3, which is breakfast consumption before class, here we have a total of 100 response from the student, which 33 of them choose that they have their breakfast before the class session, which made the percentage is 33%, while the other 26 of students choose that they didn't have their breakfast before the class session, which made the percentage is 26%, while the remaining of the student, which is 41 of them, choose that they sometimes take their breakfast and sometimes they skip their breakfast, which made the percentage is 41%.
This is the third preliminary analysis. There is only 86 responses for this question, since these questions follow the previous one about whether students have breakfast before class sessions. Then, this slide shows the preliminary analysis of the question. If they did consume breakfast, which one do they prefer to take in the morning? As we can see from the pie chart, it shows that only 40% of the respondents took heavy breakfast, such as rice or noodles, to start off their day, and the remaining 86 of them preferred on taking light breakfast, like biscuits or breads, as their breakfast. And next, for the fourth one, this slide shows the preliminary analysis of student responses to the question, do you think having breakfast affects your focus rate in class? This is the pie chart from the result of the question. We can read that nearly half of them, which is 44 of them, agreed that breakfast does affect their focus rate in class. Meanwhile, the other 31 of them were still unsure if breakfast plays a role for their focus in class, and the remaining 15% of them disagreed that breakfast has an impact on their focus during class.
Analysis 6 is on the frequency of breakfast consumption. As we can see, the mean is 2.32, which indicates that on average, students consume 2.32 times breakfast per week. Breakfast consumption of 2 times per week is the mode because 34 is the highest frequency. To find the median, we have to locate the 50th percentile in the cumulative frequency distribution. Looking at the cumulative frequency, the 50th percentile falls in the class where breakfast is consumed 2 times per week. Based on our calculation, we found that the variance is 1.838 and the standard deviation is 1.356. We also found that at least 75% of the data fall between negative 1.356 and 5.996. Analysis 7 is on range of focus rate in class. Based on the scatter plot that displays the relationship between the number of times students eat breakfast in a week and their focus rate in class, each point on the scatter plot corresponds to a combination of breakfast consumption and focus rate in class. For example, a point of 2, 3 would represent a student who eats breakfast 2 times per week and has a focus rate of 3 in class. We have found that the points are spread across all possible combinations of breakfast consumption and focus rate that indicates a variability in the data. Based on our calculations, we have found that students have an average of 3.37 focus rate in class. The highest frequency is 42, so the mode is focus rate of 3. The median is 3 since the 50th percentiles falls in the class where the focus rate is 3. The variance is 0.833 and the standard deviation is 0.913. Based on distribution theorem, we have found that at least 75% of the data will fall between 1.544 and 5.196. Next is hypothesis testing using the Wilcoxon rank sum test. This data is grouped by the breakfast consumption, which are no and yes. If students who sometimes take their breakfast, they are assumed as yes. This data is also organized by the order and the rank. The hypothesis testing will be tested at alpha equal to 0.05. The null hypothesis will be students who consume breakfast will have higher focus rate in class. The alternative hypothesis will be students who do not consume breakfast have higher focus rate in class. Since alpha is at 0.05 and this test is a two-tailed test, so the critical value will be negative 1.96 and 1.96 from table E. Based on the calculations, we will get the test value of negative 1.13. And the decision is to not reject the null hypothesis because the test value is greater than critical value. There is not enough evidence to reject the claim.
For the next analysis is causes of students skipping breakfast. In here we have total of 100 response from the student. So for the first reason is lack of appetite. Here we have 53 of the students choose this reason for them to skip their breakfast, which made the percentage a 53%. Next, we have 68 of the students choose time constraint, which made the percentage is 68%. Next, we have 37 of them choose financial constraint for the reason for them to skip their breakfast before the class session, which made the percentage is 37%. Next, we have 48 of the students choose that they does not like to eat in the morning, which made the percentage is 48. Also, 3 of the students also add their own reason, which is first is lack of places to buy light food, next is does not have ready to go snack, and lastly is lazy to buy some.
So another co-finding that we found based on the survey is how different time-related issues prevent the students from having breakfast before attending to class. So they are 18.7% with the lowest frequency of students who miss breakfast because they overslept, while class starts early become the most significant factor students skip breakfast before coming to the class, which is it has the highest percentage with 36.8%, following commute durations and busy morning routine with the same percentage, which are 22.3%. So another co-finding that we found is how financial constraints cause students to skip breakfast, and based on the result, it shows that food insecurity is the least common reason for how financial constraints cause students to skip breakfast with the lowest frequency, which is 14, and the percentage of 7.5%. Meanwhile, the 43% percentage with the highest frequency of 80 indicates that the students did not spend money on breakfast because they are prioritizing other needs, which is a major reason, followed by high cost of food with 34.3% and limited access to nutritious food with 15.1%. Lastly, another independent variable from this report is the amount of sleep students get before coming to the class, which might affect the students' focus rate in class. So students are grouped based on their sleep duration from 2 to 3 hours to 10 to 11 hours, and the frequency shows how many students fall into each category. The mean sleep duration is 4.78 hours, indicating that most students are likely to experience sleep deprivation as they sleep less than the recommended amount for optimal cognitive function and overall focus. Furthermore, the mode is 4 to 5 hours of sleep, which most students have a common sleep duration, and the median aligns with the mode of sleep duration, which shows that typical students get 4 to 5 hours of sleep. And the median suggests that half of the students sleep less than 4 to 5 hours, which might negatively impact the students' focus rate in class. Plus, the high value of variance, which is 106.92, and standard deviation of 10.34 shows significant variability in student sleep patterns. And the Chebyshev theorem supports that the majority of students have sleep durations around the mean, which is 4.7 hours.
Based on the statistical method and graph presented, the data extracted of 100 IIUM students from different faculties showed variable result of understanding breakfast consumption and its percentage. The result exposed that 26% of the students skip their meal in the morning and run to the class, 41% of the students sometimes have breakfast, and 33% of the students usually have their breakfast. Based on the percentage of the students that have breakfast in the morning, there were 2 different types of options for students available to choose that what they would prefer to have. In addition, as noted in the result, percentage of food consumption demonstrate 86% of the students would prefer snack as breakfast, which is 70 for students. Next, in delivering the result that demonstrate if breakfast consumption affect the student focus in the class, result were that 54%, 31%, and 15% showed breakfast consumption affect, do not know, and do not affect student focus rate respectively. This is in sync with our prototype that students who sometimes have their breakfast show higher percent focus rate in class, while those who skip their meal in the morning have lower focus rate. Additionally, the study also conducted a survey on why the student did not have breakfast. The result indicated that the primary reason were time constraint, reported by 68% of the student, followed by the poor appetite, reported by 53% of the student, and financial constraint, reported by 37% of the student. Further, 48% of the student reported not having breakfast because they do not like to eat in the morning. As well, early class timing, reported by 36.8% of the student. Long hour go to the university, reported by 22% of the student, and hurry morning, reported by 22.3% of the student, are the reason that the student had to skip breakfast for financial constraint. The reason are the student priority to have used money for other purposes, reported by 43% of the student. The higher cost of food, reported by 34.4% of the student. Furthermore, after having analysed sleep pattern, it is clear that the majority of the students sleep less than 4 to 5 hours a night, with a mean sleep duration of 4.78 hours. Therefore, a shortage of sleep is the prevalent issue among students. It appears that students who get less sleep than they should have less focus and might consequently have lower academic performance. The data have proven the alternate hypothesis, showing that maintaining a necessary amount of sleep affects students' focus rate and possibly influence their level of academic achievement. At the same time, with a standard deviation of 7.05 hours and a variance of 0.58, the inconsistency of the population sleep pattern, which implies the necessity for the provision
of better condition for sleeping controls over the academic load that the student accumulate at the given time. Moreover, the result from the gender analysis reveals that the sample was 63% of female and 37% of male respectively. The run test indicates that there is no evidence to suggest that the single distribution was not random. This means that it is indeed occurs randomly. Next, in terms of academic performance, the summary statistic for CGPA established that the mean score was 3.48, which was high, since the majority of the students performed within the range of 3.51 to 4. Additionally, the variance was 0.1, which was low, thereby showing the CGPA of the student was closely distributed. Lastly, we conducted the hypothesis test about the claim that students who have breakfast have higher focus rate. The result shows that there is not enough evidence to reject the null hypothesis. This means that students who have breakfast have indeed high focus rate in class. This confirms that breakfast is very important and has to be taken from every student to ensure that target sets are met.
So for the conclusion, in conclusion, our study sought to investigate the relationship between breakfast routines, concentration levels, study performance, and sleep duration in IIM students. By gathering and studying data, we explored multiple aspects like how often breakfast was eaten, the reason for skipping breakfast, and sleeping habits. The research included 100 IIM students who gave important feedback on their routines and how these connect to their academic success. The result shows that most students recognize how eating breakfast can affect their focus and academic performance. The data analysis indicate a positive relationship between consistent breakfast intake and increased level of concentration, which align with our initial hypothesis. Moreover, time and financial constraints play a crucial role in student decision to skip breakfast. Our study also showed that getting a sufficient amount of sleep has a positive effect of concentration levels and academic achievement. Nevertheless, our study encountered constraints such as the subjective nature of responses on online surveys, potentially affecting the reliability of the results. The results that weren't definitive indicate the necessity for more investigation, which could include a broader range of participants and extra factors to deepen the comprehension. Overall, our students shed light on the connection between breakfast routine, sleep schedule, and academic achievement in IIM students, but it is important to recognize the multiple factors that impact these results. Future studies can expand on our results by investigating more factors to gain a deeper understanding of the complex relationship between student behavior and academic achievement.